A young scholar, famous for his knowledge, traveled across mountains to meet a revered Zen master. He wanted to learn the secrets of enlightenment. When he arrived, he proudly listed all the books he had read and the debates he had won. The master listened quietly, then invited him for tea. As the scholar continued talking, the master poured tea into his cup until it overflowed. Hot tea spilled across the table. "Master, stop! The cup is full! No more can go in!" the scholar shouted. The master gently placed the pot down. "Like this cup," he said, "your mind is full of your own opinions, ideas, and pride. How can I teach you anything unless you first empty your cup?" The scholar fell silent. For the first time, he realized that true wisdom cannot enter a mind crowded with ego. He bowed deeply and whispered, "Master, teach me." From that day, he approached every lesson with humility, embracing the beauty of unlearning so he could learn again. And slowly, the world around him changed, not because it was different, but because he finally was. Deep in the mountains lived an elderly Zen master known for his profound wisdom and calm presence. One summer morning, a young traveler arrived at the monastery. He was restless, troubled, and overwhelmed by the noise of his own thoughts. Hoping to find peace, he sought the master's guidance. The master welcomed him with a gentle smile. "Walk with me," he said. They walked through the pine forest behind the monastery. Birds chirped, wind rustled the trees, and a nearby stream shimmered in the sunlight. Yet the young man heard none of it. His mind was too busy. After a while, the master stopped near a wooden bridge. "Tell me," he asked, "what do you hear?" The young man shook his head. "Nothing, master. Only silence." The master closed his eyes. "Listen again, not with your ears, but with your presence." Confused but obedient, the young man breathed deeply and focused. Slowly, the world began to reveal itself. The soft hum of insects, the distant waterfall, the echo of his heartbeat. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of life. The master smiled. "The world has never been quiet. It was your mind making all the noise." They sat by the river, watching leaves drift past. The young man felt his thoughts soften, his breath slow, and for the first time in years, he felt something pure stillness. The master spoke softly. "True listening happens when the mind is quiet. Only then can you hear the world and yourself." The young man bowed deeply. His journey for peace was no longer outside him. It had begun within. In a quiet village surrounded by forested hills lived a respected Zen master known for his clarity and insight. One afternoon, a successful scholar traveled a long distance to visit him. The scholar was wealthy, intelligent, and proud of his knowledge. Yet despite his achievements, peace always escaped him. His mind was restless, full of questions that chased each other endlessly. When he finally reached the master's house, he bowed respectfully and said, "Master, I have studied philosophy, science, and logic. I have read hundreds of books, but still, I cannot find peace. Teach me your wisdom." The Zen master smiled gently and invited him to sit. He placed a teapot and 2 cups on the table. As the scholar began listing all the things he had learned, the master started pouring tea into his cup. The cup began to fill. Then it reached the brim. Then it began to overflow. The tea spilled onto the table, dripped onto the floor, and still the master continued pouring. "Master," the scholar exclaimed, "stop! The cup is overflowing. You can't pour any more tea into it." The master set the teapot down and looked at him kindly. "You are like this cup," he said, "full of your own ideas, judgments, and conclusions. How can I show you truth unless you first empty your cup?" The scholar fell silent. His pride, once so strong, melted away. He realized that all his knowledge had become a barrier instead of a path. The master continued, "To learn, you must come with an open mind. To find peace, you must let go of ego, expectations, and the constant noise of your thoughts. Only an empty cup can be filled." The scholar bowed deeply. For the first time, he understood that wisdom begins not with knowing, but with unlearning. And from that moment, a new chapter of his life began, one guided not by answers, but by awareness. In a quiet mountain valley, a gentle river flowed through a small Zen village. At the far end of the valley lived an old Zen master known for his simple wisdom. One morning, a young man came to him, burdened by frustration and disappointment. Life felt difficult, slow, and heavy. "Master," the young man said, "I work hard, yet nothing goes as I wish. Why is life so unfair?" The master smiled softly. "Walk with me." They followed a narrow path until they reached the river. The master pointed to a large stone sitting in the flowing water. The stream split around it effortlessly, continuing its journey without hesitation. "Do you see that stone?" the master asked. "Yes," the young man replied. "It blocks the water." "Does it?" The master dipped his hand into the stream. The water simply parted around the obstacle and continued on its way. The river does not fight the stone. It does not complain. It does not stop. It flows. The young man sighed. "But I feel stuck." The master sat on the riverbank. "Because you are trying to be the stone. You resist every change. You hold on to expectations. You want life to move around you. But peace comes when we learn to move with life." He lifted a handful of water. It slipped through his fingers, returning to the river without struggle. "Water is soft," he continued, "yet nothing is stronger. It adapts, bends, and flows. When you become like water, flexible, open, and accepting, life no longer feels heavy." The young man closed his eyes, listening to the river's rhythmic song. For the first time, he understood. The obstacle was not life. The obstacle was his resistance to it. He bowed deeply to the master. From that day forward, he chose not to fight the flow, but to move with it. A young man once approached a Zen master with worry carved deep into his face. "Master," he said, "I am afraid of the future. No matter how hard I try, I cannot control what comes next." The master nodded gently. "Walk with me." They followed a quiet path toward a calm lake shimmering in the morning light. The master picked up a dry leaf lying nearby and placed it on the water. The young man watched as the leaf drifted without effort, sometimes moving quickly, sometimes slowing, sometimes turning, but always floating. "Do you see how it moves?" the master asked. "It goes wherever the water takes it," the young man replied. "Exactly," said the master. "But it does not fear. It does not resist. It simply trusts the river." The young man frowned. "But I am not a leaf, master. I have responsibilities." The master smiled. "And yet you cling to imagined futures just as tightly as that leaf lets them go." He pointed to the sky. Clouds drifted lazily, unchanged by worry or expectation. "Life will move, with or without your fear," the master continued. "When you learn to trust the flow of events, your heart becomes light." The young man stood silently, watching the leaf dance across the water. For the first time, he felt the softness of letting go, the freedom of not forcing life into shape. The master placed a hand on his shoulder. "Walk your path with sincerity, but do not cling to outcomes. When you trust the journey becomes your guide." The young man bowed deeply. Fear loosened its grip, and like the leaf, he began to float, not away, but toward peace.